Welcome to another podcast for the Geeky Gimp. And today I have a guest with me, and his name is Chris. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, folks. I'm Chris Pryman. I am. I'm sure a few of you probably already know me from a rather obsessive and sporadic Twitter. I am also the blind underscore GM underscore over on WordPress, though even more sporadically than on Twitter. I am obsessed with tabletop RPGs, books, film, and television. And I guess that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about today.
Yeah, nice. So what kind of RPGs do you like?
Okay, so again, me being who I am, I will happily play or accept the invitation to just about anything. Though I will concede that I favor the stuff from like the late 1990s through early 2000s because one, a lot of those stuff is based on a nice, simple, if not easy system that I can actually find online, so I'm not
Right.
futzing around with PDFs or scanned images or anything like that.
Right.
And even still, I also tend to avoid some of the more experimental modern stuff because it tends to be playing with dice I have no analog for digitally, or because a lot of the rules involve symbols in the books I can make no sense of whatsoever.
Right. I just started getting into it. Like I started with Pathfinder. Which
Ooh, a lot of people are starting that place. It's not a bad place to start either. Are you having a good time with it?
I'm having a hard time like understanding the battle part and rolling dice and how much to add, or it's a lot of statistics that is,
It can be.
yeah, it's a bit heavy in that part, but I like the role playing. I enjoy it. It's just very confusing at times.
I know it's the very trite answer that it will get better
Yeah.
as you start to internalize why a lot of these things are the way they are. But it is also true
Right.
that once you start kind of internalizing why the system works the way it does, you'll actually find that you'll even start being able to predict how a certain rule probably works, even if you've never actually needed it.
Right.
And believe it or not, that's what a lot of GMing is saying, okay, that's probably how this should work. Let's do it this way.
Yeah. I'm doing it online too, not in person. So
Fair enough.
I think doing it online is not the easiest way to get into it, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, there are some barriers to online play. I know it's becoming more and more common because, people are spread out, schedules get complicated.
Right.
I have a local group that I still mostly play with on Skype because it's either that way that people can just head home from work, get online and start playing rather than get home from work, get everything ready, then head
Right.
over to somewhere else and play, then get
Yeah.
home.
The people that I play with were having a hard time, like, getting together on the same day. It's still difficult, but it's fun.
It is. No, it really is. And part of my mission, I say this is a ridiculous mission in life, but then part of me is like, why the hell should it be a ridiculous mission in life? It is to kind of spread, evangelize, if you must, the word of tabletop RPGs for blind folk, specifically, not just to like the blind folk,
Right.
because to us it's not a tremendously difficult sell, but in a lot of cases to the other-sided players that this is not only a thing we can do, but a thing we can be particularly good at. And Lord knows how long ago I wrote an article specifically on that actually got shared over on The Escapist. It was an article over on theblindgm.com specifically entitled "Why You Want Us in Your Game,"
Nice.
and it got shared over on The Escapist, and that was a proud moment for me. And he said, I remember the comments on it over on The Escapist was that he hoped I'd stick around in the blogging community.
Yeah.
That was also back in like 2011, 2012, and I don't think I wrote on it again until I got angry at Daredevil.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
that didn't work out as well as I'd like it to.
Oh yeah, we have to talk about Daredevil because I just watched the fourth episode last night,
Ah,
and it was just I don't know. I can't get into it.
I made a big stink about it online a couple weeks ago when it came out.
Mhm.
So when Netflix did start, bowing to public pressure and start introducing sort of descriptive video for us,
Mhm.
everyone's like, "You must be thrilled. Aren't you loving the show?" It's like, "No, not really."
Yeah.
Because my point was never that I actually wanted to watch the show.
Mhm.
My point was always that this should have been an option for me. No, I
Right.
actually have a problem with the Daredevil. It's a problem that for years I've had a hard time putting my finger on.
Mhm.
But I was actually watching a conversation between one half of James S.A. Corey, and I can never figure out which half of them is running the Twitter at any given moment,
Mhm.
and Scott Sigler.
Mhm.
And they were arguing over it. And one of the things James S.A. Corey brought up was that he always had a problem with the Daredevil where his main superpower is actually not having the disability he pretends to have.
Right.
And that so perfectly embodied what always felt wrong to me about Daredevil.
Yeah, and the
Was that he's
episode.
not blind. He sees differently, but he's
Right.
not blind.
Blind. Right. Yeah, that
And that
makes
always sat
sense.
wrong with me.
That makes sense. Yeah. The problem that I had with it, well, first of all, I just don't like the storyline. I can't get into it. I don't like that crime, mafia stuff. It just doesn't interest me. But also, I didn't like how, well, basically what you said, how when he became Daredevil, he literally throws away his walking stick and becomes, not himself. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
no, it's all seems a little weird. Now, my biggest problem with Daredevil is, see, I like gritty fiction.
Mhm.
I loved Breaking Bad. I loved Dexter. I love Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
But I think with Daredevil, I think in a lot of ways, and this owes a lot to the original Frank Miller run on Daredevil
Yeah.
back in the comic books. But it's dark and gritty, and unlike a lot of dark and gritty, it is utterly joyless.
It is. Yeah.
It tries to have a sense of humor, but it's undercut by how unbelievably bleak everything is. It's like, oh, that's kind of funny. Let's get back
Mhm.
to the hopeless now.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of hard to deal with. I don't necessarily want to. And
Right.
again, I think that a lot of that I think Daredevil, and I've watched most of it at this point, it does owe a lot to Frank Miller. And I can't remember if
Mhm.
Frank Miller created the character or just kind of inspired and
Mhm.
redefined the character like he did with Batman. But I think, unlike Batman, Daredevil hasn't completely shaken the legacy of Frank Miller.
Mhm.
Everything's dark and ultra brutal. Every woman is ultimately either going to be a prostitute, a villain, or a corpse, and
Right.
delightfully sometimes all three.
Mhm.
Everyone's going to be white if they want to be even remotely sympathetic.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think it's like, I'm not calling out the people who enjoy it. If you enjoy it, by all means, please enjoy it.
Mhm.
But understand that I find it problematic.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love some really problematic stuff.
Oh yeah, me
If
too.
if you're not going to enjoy problematic media, what have you got left?
Yeah, nothing.
But that doesn't mean I can't sit down and say, "Hey, I've got a problem with this thing. I
Right.
like this thing, but I've got a problem with it too."
Yes.
And that's where I sit on Daredevil.
I think everything that I watch is problematic in some way. There's no way to get around it. But I didn't like Daredevil because of the reason that you said. And I also did not like the way, what was the lady who he went to her house after he got injured. What was her name?
I've blocked so much of that out of my memory at this
Yeah.
point, which should tell you, because the fact that I watched this like 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
that I've blocked so much of this out of my memory should tell you exactly how I'm feeling about this
Yeah.
particular product, because I honestly don't remember.
The way they portray her just upset me so much that I couldn't continue watching it. Like you said, she was just there to move along his storyline. She didn't.
Oh
have,
yeah, no.
Yeah, she didn't have
And I've read some Daredevil. I don't think any female in Daredevil, with the possible exception of Elektra occasionally, has ever really had agency of their own.
No.
And even then, because it's kind of based on Frank Miller, it's always been a kind of skeevy agency, even when they do have it.
I really don't like Frank Miller. Like, every time I see his name, I just get so angry.
Well, every time you see his name, something hateful about women, minorities, foreigners, or the disabled is about to be said.
Yeah. So, I mean...
and that's disappointing, because he did actually have some writing chops back in the day.
Yes.
But it's kind of hard to overlook what he's writing about at times.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about Batman versus Superman?
I look at the whole Superman thing, and I'm looking at it, it's like, there are a number of things I can say about why I both am and am not looking forward to this film. I don't anticipate liking this film, but I'm looking forward to it, and actually I kind of want it to be successful. I want it to be successful. I want it to be good, because even if it's not for me, that doesn't mean it's not for anyone.
Right.
But there are a number of reasons. Again, my issue with the last Superman, and what seems to be multiplying is this whole new Batman versus Superman thing, again, seems to be utterly joyless.
Right.
Where's the fun? It's like, these things are comic books, and yeah, comic books can get really deep at times, but did we forget that they're also comic books?
Yeah.
They're also supposed to be fun.
I think,
I don't want a moral ambivalent Superman who spends the time moping and wondering if he really should be Superman before, going out and killing a city. Superman's supposed to be that giant kind of corny Boy Scout.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be Batman. That's what Batman's for.
I actually don't mind how dark it looks, because I think it's interesting to explore that aspect of it. But I also think that this is why the Avengers does so well, because it's not as heavy,
Oh, the Avengers is a lot of fun, and a lot of the properties, the last Hulk movie notwithstanding, and possibly Iron Man 2 notwithstanding. Actually, you know what? I'll actually remove that. Iron Man 2 gets in there. It wasn't a good movie, but it was a really fun one.
Yeah. It was not... I like the first one better, but...
I think a lot of people did. I think the first one was a little bit smaller scale. It had a little bit more to do with characters. I feel like the second was trying to cram a little too much in. And I think, while I was happy to see more about Hawkeye, I was also really mad at the treatment of Black Widow.
Oh, really? I didn't see it yet.
If you do see it at some point, I'd be happy to come back on then and talk to you about exactly why I've got some problems with the treatment of Black Widow as a character.
I have heard people say that, so I'm interested to see, why. I'm probably going to go see it next week, maybe.
Well, I do hope you enjoy it. I think you will. If you liked the first one, you're going to at least like this one.
Yeah, but I can probably wait until it comes out on DVD, because while I like the Avengers, my real passion is with DC, Batman, Superman. I'm really looking forward to that, even though it is a little bit darker.
It can be. I will say this: DC, I think, has always been my, for me, third favorite comic book line. I was definitely a Marvel kid in the 90s when the comic books were weird and kind of bad, but the cartoons were fantastic.
Yeah.
And, I kind of grew up with that Marvel, and Marvel to me defined what a hero was. And I look at DC, and Barbara Gordon notwithstanding, they're not a particularly diverse group of superheroes.
No, they're not.
Barbara Gordon, and most of them are white. You've got a couple of blacks and Latinos in there too.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Barbara Gordon, who was crippled in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can get on about how Barbara Gordon hasn't been depicted particularly well as a disabled figure in DC.
Right.
But I could be here all day if all I'm going to do is point out the problematic stuff.
Yes.
What I did say about Marvel, and one of the reasons that I really miss reading comic books, is Marvel always had better heroes because they're not these giant planet-stopping people. They are people. Some of them are disabled. Right. Most of them are outsiders. Mm-hmm. They're wonderful. Now, Magneto notwithstanding, DC had better villains. Mm-hmm. DC gave me Lex Luthor and the Joker and people like that.
Right.
And that is wonderful. Mm-hmm. And I've got to give that to DC. The Marvel's only come close, I think, with Magneto, and you can even argue whether Magneto is necessarily a villain or not.
Right. When I was a kid, I was really into Batman, but then I got into Superman. So I grew up watching the Adam West Batman show.
Oh, that wonderful.
Yeah.
It's campy, it's goofy, it's unapologetically dumb, and it's doing it on purpose. It's absolutely tongue-in-cheek throughout.
Yes.
No, Adam West's Batman is wonderful.
Yeah, it is. How is blind access to comic books?
To blind access to comic books, with the exclusion of the occasional novelization, is more or less non-existent. Mm-hmm. And I think I commented earlier, I do miss comic books. I've got like graphic audio adaptations and Marvel and DC novelizations of major arcs. Mm-hmm. But I can't go down to the store and buy the latest Wolverine miniseries or that wonderful, enormous Age of Apocalypse, hardback omnibus thing that they put out a couple of months ago or years ago or however long.
Right.
And I do miss that. I still have all of my comic books, this wonderful collection of 90s garbage up in the closet because I hold out hope one day I'll be able to read it again somehow.
Right.
And I can't bring myself to get rid of them. I think it's the reason I still have my old PlayStation 2 and all its games, too.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there should be a way to, scan in a comic book and have voiceover, I
think the biggest problem with comic book text is that it's all handwritten, or at least it's designed as a font that's supposed to look handwritten.
Right.
And I think that it's a wonderful part of the style. But even if you think about the arrangement of speech bubbles,
yeah, it's not.
That could be difficult for a human being who knows how to read a comic book.
Right.
The computer's never going to make heads or tails of all that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, even then, all we have is the narration. Because so much of what makes a comic book entertaining is the art that goes with that.
Right.
That I think, unless I can get a point where it's that's why I think at this point I like adaptations. Mm-hmm. Take that and give it to me in pure words.
Yes.
And that's lovely.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I love the movies. I love the movies for exactly that reason, that it's taking so much of it that with a little bit of minimal description is just, it's wonderful. Right. Whatever problems I have with Marvel, DC, any of these other comic book or other movies in general, I love movies.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, that changes so much based on the week.
Yeah.
I've been on a Star Wars binge lately, but I don't think I'd ever call them my favorite movies.
I actually watched Star Wars for the first time last year.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I'm way more into Star Trek. But Star Wars, I've seen parts of it here and there, but I never sat down and watched all the movies.
No, I get that completely. Now, I love me some Star Trek. I think Star Trek's always been a better character piece.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Star Trek, it's all about characters. It's all about these ideas. Star Wars, it's got some ideas and it's got some characters in it. But let's be honest, it's this plot-driven. Star Wars is fun, and at times it's almost unapologetically fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Star Trek has those moments, but I think for the most part, Star Trek is at its best when it's trying to speak to something inside you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Star Wars always gets a little weird when it tries to do that.
Yeah. I thought Star Wars, I liked it, but it didn't have the same emotional impact that Star Trek has for me.
And Star Wars can. I think Star Wars can. And I'll actually state one moment from the very beginning of the new series, Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
At the very end, they open, the characters, open the holocron, and Obi-Wan is talking to them about how the Empire has risen because the New Republic has fallen, the Jedi Order has fallen, the future is uncertain, and now it's up to you guys. That absolutely hit me in the feels, but it's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah. I am looking forward to the J.J. Abrams movie. And I know a lot of people are already complaining about it. And it's like, really, you haven't even seen it yet, you know?
It's the nature of fandom.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big part. It's the nature of fandom to criticize. But I'm not worried about Abrams making a Star Wars film, and I'll tell you why. He already has. He called it Star Trek, but he's already made a Star Wars film, and he made a pretty good one.
I have to say I liked his Star Trek movies. And I know that's not a popular opinion to have as a Trekkie, but I really...
You'll find a number of people out there that do, that still like them. I think they're the minority, or they might even be the majority, but I think they're the majority being drowned out by a very vocal minority. I think they were fun. My argument towards them is actually a lot of the same argument I have against Enterprise, which is I feel like it lost the soul of Star Trek. I felt like the movies were too much about what can we do to these characters? How can they shoot their way out of this problem? And I'm happy when Star Trek does that. But Star Trek's not at its best when it does that. Like, think about Picard. Picard's answer to a situation was never shoot first.
No.
It doesn't matter what the situation was. Violence was always his last resort. Though he did bring it hard when he had to.
Oh yeah, he did.
When that was all that was left to him, he brought it hard.
Yeah, maybe too hard sometimes.
Whereas I look at one, if I look at like original series and then I look at Abrams movies and Enterprise, too often shooting a problem is the first and only thing they try. Problem.
I think that for Star Trek to have been successful, there's no way they could have made it like the original series. Because today's audience...
You've watched the original series, though. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want that today. It works because it's wonderful, historic, and kind of fun, but you couldn't do that today.
No way, no. And that's why it makes me angry when Trekkies are like, oh, it's nothing like the original series. No, it's not.
Honestly, that's a blessing. In a lot of cases, that's a blessing. Do you mean it's not as accidentally racist? It's not as misogynist?
No.
It makes sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I love me some old Trek, but again, let's not look at it with fan eyes. Let's try and look at this objectively and say, yes, these were good things, and then what the hell was going on here? Well, now that I'm on Star Trek, I'm stuck on the idea of, again, blindness in media. And Star Trek had that wonderful episode, I call it wonderful because it's almost hilariously bad, with the blind woman who didn't tell anyone she was blind because she had that sensor web woven into the hippie dress.
Yeah. What did you think about that? Yeah.
It bothered me partially for her attitudes, but a big part of that was everyone else's attitudes towards her. Because a big plot point in that whole thing was, she said, I could play a tennis match against you, McCoy, and probably even win. And the whole thing was, yada, 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 but you still can't fly a starship. And it's like, if her web's that good, Why can't she fly a
not?
starship?
Right.
And the entire moral of that is, well, they were kind of right.
Yeah.
And it's like, the hell?
Right.
I feel like you got so close there, only to at the end pull out and say, yeah, no matter how good a technology is, you're always going to be less than us.
What
It's
did
like,
you
oh, so close.
What did you think about LeVar Burton playing Jordy in the Next
Okay, so
Generation?
now LeVar Burton, I feel they got that a lot closer to right.
Yeah, they did. I think so.
I would have, and people say that they would have preferred it, if he wasn't stumbling around a little bit whenever he didn't have his visor.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually thought about that. He always has his visor. Why should he have learned my techniques for navigating when he, without sight, if he always
Right.
had the visor or the prosthetics or whatever?
Right.
There's no reason he should be as capable as I am
Mm-hmm.
when he's not wearing it.
Right.
No, I have two big issues with Geordi, and then it's one big issue and then one kind of hilarious thing.
Mm-hmm.
The big issue is throughout the whole thing. It's he doesn't miss his eyes. He barely remembers seeing, but this is the way he sees the world, and he likes that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't remember if it's Nemesis or Insurrection, when the planet's field suddenly makes his eyes heal themselves for a time.
Uh-huh.
And he was so happy. It's like, are you really?
Right.
To my mind, if I had your visor, and I miss seeing, I really do, but if I had your visor, I probably wouldn't miss conventional sight, because his visor sees so much more.
Right.
The other hilarious thing is something that LeVar Burton actually said on the set, which was that he said, yeah, the visor's supposed to help Geordi see, but he couldn't see a thing while he was wearing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that actually really amuses me. So LeVar Burton actually thinks it's because he was black that Geordi didn't have the romance subplots that so many of the other characters did. I actually don't think that's true, because I actually look at Worf, and, I look at Worf, I look at Cisco, I look at other black characters. These people had romances.
Right.
I look at Geordi and say, no, I don't think it's because he was black that they didn't give him a romance.
Right.
I think it was because Geordi was blind.
I think so too.
And because more and more, I think when we portray people on television, disabled people on television, there's this idea that either they are asexual beings, and a lot of people do look at the disabled as asexual beings.
Yes.
Or if we don't look at them as asexual beings, we tend to look at them as people who should be.
Right.
And it's like, my eyes work. Everything else works. My eyes don't work. Everything else works just fine.
Exactly.
Those urges did not go away.
Right. Yeah, people don't get that, which is very frustrating.
It's like, aren't you worried aren't you worried your kid would be blind? Or, it's one I get a lot. Or aren't you worried that, I'm sure other people get it, or aren't you worried your kid would be deaf or couldn't walk? It's like, if that happens, we're going to deal with it. I do.
Right, yeah. And that's like, just to go
If not, then we push them to 16 and make them drive.
Yeah. Going on, going off on a tangent, but when you're dating, being disabled is very difficult to find somebody on a dating site, because people assume, they don't want to even look at me in that way,
And I think that's why so many disabled people, we date within the disabled community, because while there are preconceived notions there, they're not as many. And I'll be honest, I've dated blind women, I've dated sighted women, I've dated women with other disabilities. There is something to be said for dating another blind woman, which is very simply this. There is that point of shared experience, and it's that shared life experience. It's not necessary for a partner. Frankly, I don't need a partner that's blind. I do need a partner that'll let me go play D&D once a week.
Right.
But the blind is kind of nice. There are downsides. Neither one of us can drive. Neither one of us can explain television to the other. But, there are enough upsides,
Yeah, I mean, my two exes were disabled. And my boyfriend now is not disabled. And, well, I still like him just as much. But
of course.
It's different because they don't understand certain experiences. It's
Okay, I want to ask you something because I don't know if you get it as much as we do.
Mm-hmm.
When you guys are out together, do you get a lot of the, oh, he's such a wonderful person?
Oh, yes. All the
Oh, you're
time.
such a good person. You're
Yeah.
such a good person. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
why? I mean, yes, he's a good person, or yes, she's a good person. Otherwise, I wouldn't be dating them. But
Right.
they're not a good person because they're dating me. That's not some grand sacrifice. It's
I,
just not being a complete d-bag.
I actually get that. When I was dating my ex, I don't think people thought he was my boyfriend. I think they thought he was like my brother or something. But I always get that, oh, you're so wonderful when I'm with my mom or my nurse or a friend. It's always, oh, you're so wonderful. I'm like, why?
It's because in their minds, we must be a burden to them. It must
Right.
be, this Herculean task just to treat us like a human being.
So
And that's always like really frustrating.
it is. It's very frustrating. But it is something I have to deal with. Something we have to deal with. But I think with my blog and, other people are trying to get it out there that we are people.
Oh yeah, no, we are people. We are good people. We are
Mm-hmm.
bad people. We are
Right.
geeky people. We are everything you are.
Right. And that, for some
And I
reason...
think that's just so difficult. That's so difficult for people to conceptualize.
Right. Because all
One of the
this...
things I basically tell people is, it's like, you're always an ambassador. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
I have really bad days, and I will absolutely let that spill out into the world around me. I'm not an ambassador. I'm a terrible ambassador.
What annoys me the most is when people say, oh, you're so inspirational. And they don't even know me. Like, how do you know? I'm not inspirational. I'm just me. Like, it's because of my disability,
Yeah, and I get the same thing. It's like, you're so inspirational. It's like, no, I'm not. I ate ice cream for breakfast and spent the day in my pajamas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not inspirational. That's a pathetic 30-something.
It's just, people. But, yeah. So, well, I think, that's it for today.
All right.
This is 35 minutes. Not bad. So, I'm gonna edit everything together, and I'll probably have it posted by Friday, I think. So.
Well, that's all right. Very cool. I hope we covered everything you want. I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, it was good. It was fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Well, very cool. Of course.
Thank you for being on. Oh, how
All right. No worries.
can people contact you?
People can contact me mostly through Twitter at Preiman790, Preiman 790.
Okay.
From there, I'll eventually link them to the blog, to the Goodreads, to whatever ridiculous project I'm working on at any given moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Although I do warn people, I don't self-filter there. Whereas I might in conversation, I don't self-filter on Twitter because that is kind of my space. You're just more than welcome to come spend time in it.
Right. Okay. All right. So thank you very much. It was a lot of
All
fun.
right. If you ever want me to come back on and talk about something in actual detail, I'm more than happy to.
Oh, yeah, sure. All right. Well, take care.
All right. You too.
Thank you for listening to another podcast by the Gimp. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, reach me on Twitter at Gimp or my email erin@ggimp.com. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. Bye-bye.